Welcome back to a Mother's Touch podcast, where this is our pour through a conversation. I'm your host, Sincerely Christina Marie. As always, thank you for being here and wanting to get poured into. And today's topic, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. Are you prepared for the pour? One of my favorite passages in the Bible, it actually is in the Old Testament, and it's about a widow with olive oil. And I think why I gravitate towards this passage so much, especially in this time, is because I feel like I'm kind of doing that in real time right now. But this passage means so much to me on so many different levels. But I want to give it to you in a different angle today, because in 2 Kings, this is where the passage is, by the way. Sorry about that. 2 Kings 4. And it's about Elisha and the widow's oil. I'm going to read the passage and then we're going to break it down and why this means so much to me. So it says this: Now the wife of one of the sons of the prophets cried to Elisha, "Your servant, my husband, is dead. And you know that your servant feared the Lord. But the creditor has come to take my 2 children to be his slaves." And Elisha said to her, "What shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in your house?" And she said, "Your servant has nothing in the house except a jar of oil." Then he said, "Go outside, borrow vessels from all your neighbors, empty vessels, and not too few. Then go in and shut the door behind yourself and your sons and pour into all these vessels. And when one is full, set it aside." So she went from him and shut the door behind herself and her sons. And as she poured, they brought the vessels to her. And when the vessels were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another vessel." And he said to her, "There is not another." And the oil stopped flowing. She came and told the man of God. He said, "Go sell the oil and pay off your debts, and you and your sons can live on the rest." Wow. If I did not resonate with a certain passage more than ever, this is one of them. And I didn't even realize it until now, because there's so much goodness in here, of God's goodness in here. And if you pay attention, there's a couple of things that are very, very crucial. And the first part of it says that your servant feared the Lord. We consider the Lord, we fear the Lord. And when we fear the Lord, he's able to fill us up with his goodness, with his oil. But here's the thing, she had a problem. She had debt. She just lost her husband, and they're threatening to take her kids away. If that happened to me, this mama bear would be coming out raging. And when you don't have anything, man, that's even a whole other level of just what is going on, right? But she goes to the prophet Elisha, and she goes to him, and he asks her, "What shall I do for you? What shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in your house?" And she says, "Your servant, I have nothing but a jar of oil." Basically something like this. And I just think it's not by coincidence this is what I get to use in my brand and my business. However, he's asking, what's in your house? What do you have in your hand, Christina? What do you have in your hand, the person watching this? What do you have? It may not be a lot, but he's just asking you, what do you have in your hand? What do you have in your house? What do you have in your hand? And he asks, and she literally says, "I have nothing except a jar of oil." So let's just pretend this is a jar of oil, right? And he said, "Go outside." All right, if that's all you have, go outside and borrow the vessels from your neighbors and those around you. If you didn't know, this is actually a great example of going out to those, and almost a representation of the gospel. to go out and go tell the people, because look, we are the vessels, y'all. We are the ones that he wants to pour into. He wants to flow in and through us. But are you willing? Are you willing to be poured into? And he wants you, okay, if these people are not here, go out to the streets, go out to your neighbors, go out to these different people and see if they have jars. This is a representation of us, y'all. And look, it says this: borrow vessels from all your neighbors, empty vessels, and not too few. So not just one or two, but a few, a lot, an overflow, an abundance, right? And that's where I want to ask you, are you even willing? Are you even prepared to be as a vessel, an empty vessel? Open yourself up. Open yourself up to him, right? To be an open vessel, to be poured into, to be used. And that's my topic for today. Are you even prepared to be used by him? Are you even prepared to be poured into? Are you even prepared to be this vessel right here? Same as a candle, you got to be poured into. But are you even willing? Are you even available to be opened up and poured into, to be that light, to be that person to be poured into? Because here's why. It's not just for you, but it's for others, to pour into others just like this. Are you prepared for the pour? He wants to pour into you just like that. Are you prepared to be poured into? And this is the part where it actually saddens my heart. Because if you look down, so she did these things, right? She gathered all that she had, just what was available, just what was in her hand, just what was in her house. And if you look down, the oil stops. The pouring stops. Not because of a lack of vessel, not because of a lack of oil, but a lack of vessels. Because there is not enough of these. There is not enough cups. There's not enough candles, enough vessels to be poured into. We want to do all these things. We want to say all these things. Like I said, what are we building? We learned that in the last episode. What are you building? But are you even available for him to even pour into you, to go build those things, to go do these things, to be a living vessel unto him? He wants to pour into you today. He wants to pour these things into you. But are you even available to him? The oil stopped, not because there was a lack of oil, but because of a lack of vessels, because of a lack of jars. So take a moment, and we need to ask ourselves, am I available? Am I a living vessel unto the Lord for him? And when we get to realize that, y'all, we get to be used. Let me switch this up. We get to be used. Sorry, y'all. We get to be used. We get to be used by him. Take a sip. Share it with another friend. Oh, you want some too? Look, this cup says, my cup runneth over. And that's what it says. The oil stopped flowing out. The oil ceased. Why? Because it needs to overflow into others. That's the whole point of these conversations, so that you can go and overflow into others. Overflow. All right. I took my sip. I took my dip, right? I got poured into. Now I want to share it with you through this conversation, where this is our pour. And why? So we can overflow into someone else, into those children, into that family, into that marriage, so that my cup runneth over, so that it can continue to pour into others and the people that I am touching, the people that I am pouring into. That's what it's about. Not just for you to sit here, be capped. Nope, not this. So that you can pour and be used by him as a living vessel, to be used by him. Whether that's a drink of fresh water or to be a light in the darkness, to be a living vessel and to be that light of hope for those around you. But we have to be willing, y'all. We have to be available. And that's the whole point of this conversation today, because he wants to pour into his people. And when he wants to do things, he wants to move in you. He wants to flow through you. But there's not enough vessels. There's not enough cups. There's not enough living vessels to be used by him. Because we're too scared to be sitting in, we're too scared in our fear. We're too scared to be sitting in silence of our own insecurities and our own thoughts and things of that nature. But no, he wants to pour into you to give you confidence, to give you courage, to give you understanding. And the only reason we could get here, right, is because we're considering him. And so let's go down to the end of the verse. So, right, she went down from him, shut the door behind herself, and she poured what they brought to her, the vessels they brought to her. And when the vessels were full, she said to her, bring me another one. And there was not another. And that's when this oil stopped. Again, are you prepared for the pour? Are you prepared for the pour? P-O-U-R. Pour. So then she came back and told the man of God. And he said to her, go sell the oil and pay your debts, and you and your sons can live off the rest. Not only did the Lord supply the need that she needed to pay off her debt, but her and her sons were able to live off the rest. What happens when we become that living vessel and we be obedient to the one, be obedient to him and what he's telling us to do, and we get to pour out what he's instructing us to do, to pour into others, to pour into that community, to pour into those children, to pour into that youth, to pour into that church, to pour into whatever it is that you have an opportunity to pour into. What is that? And when we get to do that, he gets to bless us in return because of out of obedience unto him. It's an act of obedience to him. He has to. So imagine this. Imagine if she had even not just like the requirement of what her debt was, right? We see that. But imagine if she just had all these vessels just out and about and was able to get an overflowing amount of vessels. That's you and I, y'all. That is you and me. We want to build these things. We want to do these things. Go out into the cities, go out into the field, go out in the highways and byways and, preach the gospel. Go do this, go do that. And he's just like, okay, that sounds great. But are you even prepared for that? Did you even study? Did you even show yourself approved in those things? Or are we still trying to build things in our own name? Or are we still trying to do things in our own will and power? Pause, take a moment, and get poured into. Because that, again, his anointing, his oil, it has to happen sometimes through the pressing and pruning, right? But then once we get past that, man, we get to be a living vessel unto him, pour into others unto him. And in return, he gets to pay off our debts, and our sons get to live out. We get to live off the rest, off of the overflow. My cup runneth over, the overflow. And that's the whole point of this, y'all. I really, really hope you're grasping this, because this is one of my favorite passages. It shows me this on what he wants to pour into us. He wants for us to go do these things, right? But there's not enough vessels. Again, the oil did not stop because of a lack of oil. It stopped because of a lack of vessels. And because of that, because there is a lack of vessels, He's not able to pour out his spirit. He's not able to pour out these things unto you and me. He's not able to do those things. So yes, I'm talking to you, the stay-at-home mom. Stop thinking that it's less than. Stop thinking that it's not good enough. No, you get to pour into those children every single day. I know you're tired, mama. I know you are. But he sees you and he honors you in those moments because you're still raising up this next generation. The same God that uses the man on the platform, on the stages, is the same God who gets to speak to you, speaking to those children. He's the same God. But you have to be willing. Are we prepared for us to be used by him in the stillness, in the moments of that? Because that's still great. All the way up to, yes, to the preacher, to the woman preacher trying to go to the nations and all these different things. Okay, I'm gonna pause right there, because you say you want to preach to the nations. Do you even have your passport? Do you even have your passport? Are you prepared for the poor? Are you prepared for what he's quote unquote calling you to do? You over here want to go to Africa, want to go to these different things, and you don't even have your passport yet. That's a problem. So consider yourself, to humble yourself, to be prepared for these things. To be prepared. You want to start that business? You want to start that brand? Do you have an account, a separate from yours yet? Do you have a different account for these set things aside yet? Are you disciplined enough? And yes, I'm talking to myself too, because yes, but when I started A Mother's Touch, I started it by faith. I literally got a separate account, didn't have any income coming in yet. And I literally said, you know what, Lord, I'm preparing for what's to come, because I don't even know what's going to happen after this. But I know you have something in store, whether it's $2 or $2,000. I'm preparing for the poor, because this right here tells me it will pay off my debt and we will get to live off of the rest. And that's my prayer, honestly, through this brand, if I'm being honest. But not just for me, but for you too. You watching this right now, you listening to this conversation as I'm pouring into you, that you will be able to be poured into others. But are you prepared to be poured into? So pause and take a moment and prepare yourself for the poor. Go to the upper room. Hey, we still in the upper room. This might be a different setting, but we in the upper room. And get poured into today. Get rid of the distractions. Get rid of the things that are no longer part of the plan. No longer part, even if it hurts, even if it causes pain, because I promise you, he will heal you. He will make things new again. He will restore the things that were lost. I'm realizing that more and more in this time and in this hour of my own season, he's restoring things to me that I thought was lost forever. But it's because I prepared this time. I prepared this land for him to do what he wants to do. Not what I had planned, not what I had in store, but what he has prepared for me. So imagine if we all become a living vessel unto him, and we get to prepare ourselves for the work that he wants to do within us and through us, so that we may pour into others just like he poured into us. So again, if this is ministering to you, if you are getting poured into through this conversation, please share it with somebody else. Please share this with someone who you know really, really needs to get ministered by this. Where they're in a season of even preparation. And even you yourself, as you are preparing, please consider the Lord in this preparation, in the waiting season. And we're going to get into that in the next episode, but prepare in the wait. You have to prepare for the poor. So please, 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 if you haven't already, like, share, comment on all the different platforms that we are on, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Please like it, guys. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel. It gets us to be pushed out more. We are on TikTok. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram at A Mother's Touch Co. So please follow us on those platforms as well. That's also where you can see our collections, where you can get these cups, where you can get these candles as a reminder to be prepared for the pour, to be that light of hope, to be that cup, that living vessel to get poured into. So just take a moment and do that for me. Follow us on all those different platforms and let us know how we're touching your lives. Let us know how you're getting poured into, if this is even touching your hearts. I would love, love, love to hear your feedback. And lastly, if you have not heard, Flourish Fall Dinner for Mothers is here, happening in October. October 5th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. here in Columbus, Ohio. We are having a dinner filling a mother's cup, and it's called Flourish. I would love for you to be a part of that. Please register at amotherstouchco.com under events. It should be there on my website. Please let us know and RSVP to that. And that way we could get the proper things prepared, for you. Okay. Don't worry, everybody else. I'm not going to be leaving you out. There will be things happening in 2025 in the next year for you guys as well. But right now, again, my heart is mothers. My mission is mothers to fill their cups as well. That way they can be touched through this dinner and an opportunity to serve them. So thank you once again for tuning into a Mother's Touch podcast, where this is our pour. Until next time.